For years now in this game, I have operated under the mindset that Anathos is the best all-around weapon in the game. But recently I've been coming around to the fact that Winter's Wail's borderline insanity and its in-game fatigue potential probably actually takes the cake. And then there's of course Rosetta Thorn, which a good portion of the community agrees that probably shouldn't have been designed the way it was. So I opened up the question to all of you. What's the best weapon in Flesh and Blood? Today we're going through those results and I give my ultimate take on Flesh and Blood's very best weapon. Do our opinions match? Let's discuss. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. I'm Andrew with you here as always, and before we get started, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you, to your family, to your loved ones, and so on. I hope everything goes well for you and is intended over the next several weeks or whatever it may be for you. And again, happy holidays, and I hope everything goes well. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. Have a great holiday season. All right, that's right. So today we are talking the very best, absolute best weapon in Flesh and Blood as voted by you, and I'm giving my take as well. Then we'll talk and see if they match up. Spoiler alert, they don't. But that's okay, because there's, of course, only one right answer ever. That's the way it has to work, right? Otherwise, we can't hold only Sith work in absolutes. But that would be for my Star Wars cast. All right, so yes, you see we're doing this PTI style on the side. Got the intro out of the way. So let's go ahead, kick it over to the Facebook group. So actually, the motivation for this is just with how much Oldhim we've been seeing over the last, I don't know, it feels like a long time. It's probably only been 6 months or so, but it feels like a long time. But he's really made a rise, and it's just hammer, 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 hammer. And I was like, Anathos might not actually be the best weapon in the game anymore. That's what I always just assumed was kind of like the best all around. I don't know that that's true anymore. So I was like, hey, I wonder what everybody thinks. So yes, I kicked it out to the Facebook poll. You see it across the screen right now. So we got a pretty good number of responses on the Facebook. So we got 426 votes. And you can see overwhelmingly 75% of the population overall voted for Rosetta Thorn. Now, disclaimer is I only put 5 on here. I didn't want there to be 400. And in the comments, you can see there were 47 comments. A lot of people were naming, I think, what was their favorite weapon. One person, did name Duskblade, which I had to give a shout out to that. So we'll talk about that. But yes, 47% for Rosetta Thorn, only 2% for Anathos, 7% for Winter's Wail. Luminaris actually got 13%, and then the Kodachis at 3%. So you can see both the WTR weapons. I mean, honestly, when Ira was ripping everybody up, the argument was probably there that it was the Kodachis. Also a very good weapon. I mean, quite a facilitator weapon. And then let's go ahead over to the poll that I did on my Facebook my YouTubes. So you can only I did an image poll and you can only do 4 options on this. So we were limited to Wail, Anathos, Rosetta Thorn, and Kodachis. And you can see that the results actually were pretty darn similar overall. Kodachis got a few more votes. I mean, Rosetta Thorn was slightly shy, and then the others were a little higher, but remember there are no Luminaris on here. So I think, honestly, if you mix, so there was 566 votes here, which is actually a bigger population than the Facebook page. But I think that's just because of the way that things roll off. Obviously, there's way more people on the Facebook page. But it's very interesting to me that with roughly 1,100 votes, the two populations were roughly matched. And Rosetta Thorn came out a very clear winner across the community. So I don't think that should be any surprise. Now, why Anathos, right? Why was I so big on it? I mean, I don't think I have to sell you guys on the fact that Anathos is a very, very, very good weapon. The reason that the reason that I've been playing it, basically the reason that I went into Guardian over the summer was because of the rise of Icelander and Wizards. And I was very big on it on Valda, and then I was planning on running Bravo going into the Denver Battle Hardened, because again, I would rather win a fair game than have to lose to a freaking Wizard, right? And what I love about Anathos is I can have blues in my deck like crazy that can work for me, and I don't feel like I'm getting burned. And that's why I was so big on Anathos, and the fact that you can pitch to something or pummel, Anathos Pummel for 10 is like a thing since day one in this game, and it's still very, very, very good, right? Doesn't cost him a card, but like 10 damage presented to go from 4 to 10 because of the pump 2. Anathos is very good. It's all around, and again, it's strength into wizards because you can just, with 3 cards, even just 2 cards in your hand, you can push it forward with a blue. It's swinging for 4. Once they do their thing, you can actually pitch to AB, which makes Anathos stronger. I love it. I love it. It's really good. Then we can talk Kodachis. I mean, the Kodachis are very, very strong as well. Every single ninja so far has used them. Sure, FaB, there's a good debate on whether FaB is better with the Kodachis or the Emberblade. You guys know my opinion is that he's better with the Emberblade, but there are still builds with him there because the efficiency of having 1 card in hand and being, 1 pitch card in hand, the 0 blue, be able to go Kodachi 1, Kodachi for 1 or 2, depending on which ninja you're running, and then maybe something, and then maybe something else. But it's very, very, very strong. Kodachi lock is an absolute thing because they have to block, and you can chew 2 cards in game. Again, it's been around forever. I don't need to sell you guys on it. Very, very, very strong. One I don't have on the list I want to speak to real quick that came up in some comments was Dawnblade. While we're talking about the WTR weapons, a lot of people said Dawnblade. Dawnblade can be very good, but it's not. It's only really usable by 1 hero. And don't get me wrong, you guys know Dorinthea is like my girl, but I don't think Dawnblade is as good as Anathos. And I don't think it's as good as Kodachi's. All right, I just don't. All right, yeah. So speaking about Duskblade, like I'll put it up right now. Somebody was a comment like Duskblade. How is this not on the list? It never even made it in. And honestly, that's kind of why it never even made in. The point is valid that it was such a broken good weapon, but it's not in the game, right? In any sensible term, Duskblade's not a part of this game. So in my head, it just wasn't there. Matt Rogers also, he didn't comment. He just put in the comments a picture of Teklo Pistol. And the reason that I did not have this one on my list was because so the advantage of this card, as you guys are well aware, is the fact that it's not a once per turn. I mean, that's its thing, but it can't do it alone. It can't do it alone. Whereas you look at like an Anathos or the Kodachis, 1 card for 4, 1 card for 2 ones. But Teklo is 1 for 2, 1 time, and then it needs other cards. Now, sure, with the heroes, I get it, but I'm just saying in terms of actually being Teklo Pistol, I think works really well with Dash, and whenever that happens, we get another Mechanologist. Will the other Mechanologist throw their weapon in the trash and use Teklo Pistol? Maybe. I don't think so, though, right? I think if you have a Mechanologist who can't start with Induction Chamber in play, and I know Dash does do that every time, but I'm saying if you don't have the Induction Chamber on demand type thing, I think Teklo Pistol automatically starts losing its strength. That's just my take. I don't think I'm not saying it's a bad weapon. I'm just saying I don't think it's in the top 5. And then the one I took some flack about Luminars not being on the 4 poll, like the YouTube poll, and I think that's fair. I just had to pick my top 4. Luminaris is kind of a funny one because it by itself doesn't do anything. But think back to Monarch. There was a lot of us kind of saying pseudo in jest, Luminaris might be busted. The ability to facilitate just having a yellow in your pitch zone and getting goes on your things is pretty stupid good, right? It's pretty stupid good. I mean, Prism did not LL because of Prism's ability overall. Prism LL'd because she was a light illusionist that had access to what she had access to. Right? I mean, I'm not discounting Prism's ability in the fact that it could have swung games and tactically could do things. But if you really think about it, Luminaris is still what facilitated those Spectral Shields being good. Right? So yes, Luminaris absolutely deserved to be on that list. I was surprised actually that it got as few votes as it did. And I do have to wonder if the timing, if I'd asked this question 3-4 months ago, I do have to wonder what the effect of that would have been. And also to that point, somebody on the Facebook comment actually said, I wonder how these results would be different if we only asked people who were in like the top 64 at Worlds. I thought that was an interesting question. I mean, obviously we don't have the data and we can't compare it, but to his point, I think there were a fair amount of people voting for their quote-unquote favorite weapon, and hence the comments of like, why isn't this on here? Why isn't this on here? It's like, I mean, there's a very real reason that some of the weapons you were choosing aren't on there. All right, so let's go into Rosetta Thorn. So the 75%, it is not my top pick. I kind of already let it slip that it was Winter's Wail. Rosetta Thorn is stupid good, right? I mean, there's no secret about that. I think unless you're a Runeblade player, hell, even some Runeblade players are like, yeah, it's probably too good, right? And I think the majority of us agree that Rosetta Thorn probably would have been better if it had just been an elemental weapon. And if it was an elemental weapon, then it probably would be gone already. Well, I guess actually that doesn't change anything in the grand. It may have changed stuff early on, but you know, would Viserai have been gone from Blitz? Probably still, probably, but maybe not. I mean that's fair. Would he have LL'd as fast in Blitz? Probably not. So anyway, I'm not really selling my case here and why it's not the best, right? But my thing on Rosetta is that it is an absolutely insane. It is. Let's do this. Rosetta is the best weapon in the game when you have tempo, but when you're not in front and when you're not the one driving the action and you're behind and you have to defend, it's a Cintauri Saber. It's actually worse than Cintauri Saber because it doesn't get the advantage. So you have to, at minimum, have a 3-card hand to make Rosetta work. I mean, that's well, or a 2-card and 1 arsenal, but you get my point. That's why I don't think it's as good as my number one, which is Winter's Wail. So Winter's Wail is a 1-card hand breakpoint with an on-hit effect most of the time. That's very, very, very strong. It's stupid strong. I mean, think about how many games you've played in the last quarter, right? In the last 2 meta or 2. Well, I mean, we're considering Dynasty now, so the last 2 metas where you've had like an 18 or 22 health advantage on Oldhim going into the quote-unquote in-game. And you just can't pull it off because every turn it's boom for 4, boom for 4, boom for 4, frostbite, right? It's very, very, very strong. And yes, the other components of that are how well he blocks and his reacts and crown and all that. But the fact that he can, again, come at you with a breakpoint on hit with 1 card in hand is what helps him do that other stuff. So yes, if you could put Winter's Wail, I do actually. I think if you could put Winter's Wail in Valda's hands, or like let's say it this way, right? If you could put Titan's Fist in another Guardian's hands and it had some sort of on hit, detrimental on hit, I think that they'd be playing that. Now, obviously, they can't play Wail, so they're not. So then they go to Anathos, which is the next best thing for them. But Winter's Wail is just insanely good. And that's why, again, it boils down just for me for the consistency in the in-game and the ability to be on your back foot. And Winter's Wail wins games because it can claw them out of being behind. And granted, that's kind of Oldham's deal. But it's his deal because of Winter's Wail. That's my take on it. So yeah, that's my pick for top weapon. But again, is there any way to know the absolute best weapon? I don't know. Many of you always are right all the time. So let me know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. Maybe the discussion has kind of at least swayed you to understand my perspective. Because I know that there's a lot of Runeblade players out there that all of a sudden when something turns or they dead draw, they run out of gas and that switches the game. And that's why I think Rosetta is not better than Winter's Wail. But either way, I think that come hopefully summer, when Briar's gone, takes Rosetta with her as she ascends into the clouds, and hopefully I don't think Oldham's ever going to go away. Feels like it. But hopefully by summer, maybe he will be. Maybe the thaw of late spring will take Icelander and Oldhim out of the meta. And when we can go back to maybe not playing swing, bull, swing. You guys get it. Anyway, we will see. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. Thanks for tuning in again. Happy holidays, and go Commando.